I'm making this video because considering how pivotal Glenda Cleveland was in the Dahmer case, there's very little information regarding this woman's story, and there's a lot of misinformation regarding this woman right now. And given this is a very sensitive subject, out of the respect of the victims, their families, the survivors, the people in the community that have to live with this, as well as the people that choose not to come forward, I'm not going to talk about any gory details, and I'm going to stick very close to my script. So if you see me look over, that is why. And all in all, they all deserve so much more respect than what is being given right now. And I want to tread lightly and choose my words very carefully because I do find it a very important story to tell. And I've seen a lot of people get it wrong. And I did my research. And in the description below, you can check to see all the information that I found. And if I get something wrong, let me know. I think that the truth is important and we have to really focus on that. So first off, Glenda did not live in the Oxford apartment buildings with Dahmer. However, Glenda did live nearby. And the story starts on May 27th, 1991. Nicole Childress speaks on this in the documentary Mind of a Monster, where she found the victim and she was the one who informed Glenda of what was going on. Nicole tried to save the teen, and she said that she got into a bit of an altercation with the police and Dahmer, and he ended up calling her a crazy black bitch, which really should have been a red flag. She goes into detail in this in the Jeffrey Dahmer documentary Mind of the Monster. I will post a link if you want to look at that. So, while not getting into too much detail about this, because I do want to be respectful of the families and the people that are connected to this story, they did return the teen back to Dahmer, as which we know. You can look it up if you need to. But if only the officers would have checked Dahmer's residence, they would have found the previous victim there. And not only that, they would have saved 5 out of 17 of his victims. They would have been saved. And I can only just imagine just how much survivor's guilt these women must carry. But in that moment, Glenda kept trying to follow up with the police numerous times and even tried to call the FBI. And there are call logs and online public records of this to verify this as well. An article with Sandra Smith, who is Glenda's daughter, said her and her mother never really talked about the incident. And the article I found says that Sandra says, I try not to think about it because it should have been different. A lot of things could have been prevented, and I try not to dwell on that. And this is just my personal take. That's a lot of survivor's guilt. And I think that also echoes a lot of what a lot of minorities and people of color and even LGBT people in their community feel towards police. And here in Milwaukee, from my experience, has been very low morale towards the police, a lot of distrust, and for very, very valid reasons. I myself have had terrible police experiences where if it's a certain neighborhood, they won't even come out or they'll just dismiss you, even if you find someone unconscious or a body or what have you. There, it's like pulling teeth with them. And that's just been my experience, so I can only imagine how this must have been for them in the early 90s. So there are a few people that did live in the Oxford apartments that I felt I should mention because they do get confused for Glenda Cleveland, and the stories have kind of taken on a life of their own. So from what I found, Pamela Bass received an old sofa from Dahmer, and she was also the one who said Dahmer made sandwiches for people in the building, and she also expressed concern on what she may have eaten. And I found another YouTube video of a neighbor that was a male that lived next to him in the Oxford apartments, and he basically said he never suspected anything. He seemed like a nice guy, and he didn't find out until all the investigators and police were carrying out stuff of that apartment of Dahmer's. So I figured I should clarify that and put that in because I do think people get those confused and tangled. So I did think that was noteworthy. So Glenda went on to receive awards from women's groups, the MPD, the Milwaukee Common Council, and the Milwaukee County Board for her determination. And even after the Dahmer conviction, Cleveland continued to live in the neighborhood next to the Oxford apartments. And one article I found said her brother asked her, and quote, "Why don't you move away from that house on Haunted Hill?" In which she responded, quote, "I'm not going anywhere." So that, from the very few words I found of her, it does seem like she was a very determined person. So one of the last things I found was that Glenda Cleveland died on Christmas Eve in 2010, although some articles say 2011, which may be a discrepancy due to like the holiday break and the New Year's gap. Although her obituary, which I found, says 2010. So I just want to clear that up because there seemed to be some confusion on that. However, she was recognized in 2011 in the Journal Sentinel. And the last thing I want to touch on was there's been a lot of discussion saying that she wanted a memorial. I don't know where that came from, and it's unclear if this was something that she was pursuing. But one thing I did find is the leader of the Avenues West Associate shared an opinion that it wouldn't be appropriate to have a memorial, and this was back in 1998. And given Milwaukee's climate in the community, from what I've seen, and take this with a grain of salt, this is just what I've seen, and this is my experience, the vibe I get is that the people just want to move on and heal. This was, I would, I could unequivocally say the darkest chapter of Milwaukee in our lifetimes. And the Ryan Murphy Netflix show has caused the opposite effect for the people that want to move on and heal. And it's created a lot of unwanted attention for the community, and it's reopened a lot of old wounds. And that's why I'm really trying to talk about this and choose my words, but in a way that I can choose my words carefully. I just see a lot of misinformation. And I think some of us feel the responsibility to make sure that just it's not sensationalized and the wrong things are told just to heighten up an already bad situation. And I do find Glenda a very important person who seems to be erased from the narrative that, in a very important narrative, in especially when it comes to standing up against what's right, the Milwaukee police system, people of color, and also LGBT people in our community. So I did feel that it was important to tell her story, and I do hope that I didn't step on anyone's hot buttons in doing this. And but I did feel it was an important story to be told. And if there's any information that you want to add to this, feel free to leave in the comment section below. So I hope I didn't offend anybody in my community by making this video. I live in Milwaukee, and I know how important it is to have Glenda Cleveland's and her daughter and her niece in our community, and how valuable and important that is to tell that story, and especially can get it right. I hope I did that from my research. I've looked. I'll provide all the links down below. But I'm only human, and I hope I did the best I could. So I hope that clears up some of the stuff that's going on right now. I know there's a lot of commotion in Milwaukee about it right now, and I just hope this helps.